Welcome to Shatter.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. It was an ordinary Thursday, the kind you forget by the next morning. I got home earlier than usual. A meeting got canceled. Traffic was light. I had a bag of Thai takeout in one hand and this stupid little idea in my head that maybe tonight we'd talk. Like we used to. Maybe laugh. Maybe pretend we were still good. The house was still. No music. No TV. Just the soft creak of wood under my shoes and the low hum of the refrigerator. I didn't call out. Something felt off. Then I heard her voice. From the study. Door almost shut, but not quite. "I don't know," she said, her tone low, sharp. "Sometimes I wish he'd just disappear." No emotion. Just a fact. Like she was reading a grocery list. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just leaned against the wall, invisible, listening. A man's voice replied. Calm. Familiar. Too familiar. I couldn't hear his words. Didn't need to. The tone was enough, steady, soothing. This wasn't new for them. This was routine. I stood there for a long moment. Then I did what she wished. I disappeared. Left the food on the counter. Slid back out the door. No noise. No goodbye. Drove aimlessly for hours. Ended up at a motel off a dead highway. Paid in cash. No ID. No questions. I sat on the edge of that cheap bed and stared at the floor, hearing her voice over and over. Sometimes I wish he'd just disappear. Not, "I'm angry." Not, "We're struggling." No. She wanted me gone. That's not something you say unless you've already imagined it. I didn't sleep that night. I watched shadows crawl across the ceiling while I replayed every moment I'd ignored. Every sign I'd brushed off. Late nights at the office. Business trips that didn't line up. Smiles that stopped reaching her eyes. I didn't miss her. I missed who I thought she was. The version I built in my head. The version that never existed. By 9:43 p.m., the first call came in. Then a text. Then 5 more. "Where are you? Please call me." I didn't mean that. You weren't supposed to hear it. Exactly. I wasn't supposed to hear it. And now that I had, I wasn't supposed to do this. Disappear. Go quiet. Say nothing. But that silence? It was a weapon. And I wasn't done sharpening it. By morning, my phone had 17 missed calls. Most were from her. A few from friends. One from her sister, someone I hadn't spoken to in almost a year. The messages were pouring in now, one after another, frantic and uneven. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. "Can we talk? Please. You're scaring me. Just say something." She was unraveling. Not because I left. Not because she missed me. But because she couldn't control the silence. People like her. They live for control. Of the room. The conversation. The narrative. Take that away, and they start to spiral. I watched the messages pile up. Each more desperate than the last. It wasn't remorse I was reading. It was fear. And not fear of losing me. Fear of what I might know. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about what she said. Something else was buried underneath it. I checked into a different motel. One further out. Paid cash again. Left no trail. Then I started to dig. Not because I needed proof, but because I wanted to understand how deep the rot went. Bank statements. Calendar entries. Email logins she forgot were still synced. I wasn't looking for a smoking gun. Just patterns. And the patterns came fast. Receipts for dinners I wasn't invited to. Ride shares from addresses that weren't work or home. Charges from boutique hotels booked during conference weekends. Individually? Nothing. Together? Obvious. She wasn't lost. She wasn't confused. She had built a second life around someone else. A life where I didn't exist. The man's name was Kyle. I remembered him vaguely. Met him once at a charity event she dragged me to. Tall. Polished. Too comfortable around her. At the time, I thought he was just a friend. A network contact. Now, he had a name in her phone hidden under a fake business label. And suddenly, everything made sense. The late-night calls with her phone turned screen side down. The way she smiled more at text than she ever did at me. The business trips with no photos, no details, just vague updates and silence. She wasn't drifting. She was replacing. And I was done being the placeholder. I didn't rage. I didn't cry. I wrote down everything. Collected screenshots. Made backups. Dates. Times. Details. Like I was documenting someone else's crime scene. Because that's what it was. She didn't cheat. She erased. And now, I was doing the same. Erasing her from my life. Piece by piece. No warnings. No sound. Only action. I didn't go home. I didn't send a message. I didn't even block her. I left the door wide open and watched how fast she scrambled to close it. The text kept coming, evolving in tone every few hours like someone shifting through stages of grief. First came guilt, then confusion, then justification, and now paranoia. You didn't see anything, did you? That one hit different. That was the crack in her armor. She wasn't worried I left. She was worried I knew. Worried I saw what she was trying to bury. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and kept digging. The digital footprints she left behind told me more than any confession ever could. There were transfers to an unknown account. Small, spaced out. 1,000 here, 800 there. Always labeled as business expenses. But I knew her work, knew her patterns. She wasn't an investor. She was a funnel. The trail led to a shell company, registered in another state. A property under Kyle's name, a condo far enough away to stay out of sight, but not far enough to be accidental. It wasn't just cheating anymore. This was theft, exploitation. She was using our accounts to bankroll their secret life. And while I was budgeting groceries, she was buying weekends. Still, I said nothing. Let her send her apologies, her fake memories, her blurry selfies with captions like, "He misses you," meaning the dog, not her. She even tried nostalgia. Old photos, videos, a playlist she claimed reminded her of us. The same playlist she once skipped when I played it in the car. And still, I didn't respond. I was becoming someone else. Not the man she knew. Not the man she thought would wait, or forgive, or beg. The silence became a mirror. And in it, she saw herself. Unfiltered. For the first time. By day 4, the messages weren't sentences. They were fragments. Disjointed. Erratic. Like she was fighting to keep the story together before it slipped completely out of her hands. I didn't mean to hurt you. You have to know that. We were just talking. It wasn't real. But it was real. Real enough to build a second life on. Real enough to steal for. Life for. That kind of real doesn't go away. So I kept watching. Kept reading. But the best part? She had no idea what I was doing in return. Because while she panicked, I planned. By the 5th day, I didn't need to check her messages to know she was breaking. Her rhythm was predictable now, midnight apologies followed by morning accusations. Then silence. Then another wave. A cycle of guilt she thought I'd eventually respond to. But I was done playing the man she remembered. That man, the patient one, the quiet fixer, the guy who never raised his voice. He was gone the moment I heard her say she wished I'd disappear. Instead, I disappeared on my own terms. She still hadn't called the police. That told me everything I needed to know. She didn't want official eyes on this. Because if anyone looked too closely, the house of cards would collapse. Her silence wasn't concern. It was strategy. She was buying time, trying to patch holes with panic. But the leaks were everywhere now. That's when I contacted an attorney. Not a local one. I went out of city limits, hired someone sharp, discreet, efficient. I gave him everything, the bank records, the screenshots, the message logs, even the company filings tied to Kyle. He didn't flinch. Just nodded slowly and said, "We'll build the foundation before they realize the walls are gone." I opened a new bank account that day. Shifted everything that had my name on it. Canceled all joint cards. Froze access to the equity line. Every thread she could pull, I cut. She wouldn't know it until the next time she tried to use them. That evening, I got a call. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Mason?" the voice asked. "It's Claire." It took me a second. Claire was her former best friend. The one who vanished from our lives suddenly a year ago without explanation. Polite, reserved. Always observing from a distance. "I need to tell you something," she said. "I ran into Kyle last weekend. He was drunk. Talking loud. Said something about you finally being out of the picture. That they just had to wait a little longer." She paused. "I don't think you know everything they've planned." She was right. I didn't. But I was starting to. And now I had a witness. Claire offered more. Texts she'd saved. Things Natalie had confided in her before their fallout. Back then, it just seemed like venting. Now it looked like premeditation. I thanked her. Hung up. And sat in the dark with only one thought repeating in my head. She didn't just betray me. She calculated it. And now I was going to take everything back. Not by force. By precision. The moment Claire hung up, I knew this wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was architecture. Natalie and Kyle hadn't stumbled into an affair. They had laid bricks. Built scaffolding. Designed a version of my erasure they thought would go unnoticed until it was too late. But I wasn't the man they thought they'd written out of the story. I was the one holding the pen now. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in a dim motel chair, staring at the files on my screen. Every transfer she'd made, every message she'd sent, every careless moment she thought I'd never uncover, I had it. And thanks to Claire, I now had corroboration. I started documenting everything. Organized, dated, duplicated on physical drives. I wasn't collecting evidence for closure. I was building a blueprint for removal, hers. And then I found it. The lease document. Property registered under Kyle's LLC. The same business my money had been slowly funneling into under home maintenance and consulting fees. It was a downtown unit, expensive, modern, too polished for a man who wore fake humility like a badge. The name on the emergency contact? Natalie. That was the final thread I needed to pull. They hadn't just taken me for a fool. They'd used my stability to fund their escape plan. Drain me, discard me, rewrite me as distant, emotionally unavailable, a man who checked out, so the sympathy would fall on her shoulders. But she didn't expect silence. And she definitely didn't expect strategy. My lawyer and I drafted the first set of actions: financial separations, property hold orders, legal communications. No drama, just precision. One line after another severing her from the structure she thought she controlled. I opened a private mailbox, rerouted every important document, closed shared subscriptions, pulled my name from every bill. Not because I couldn't afford it, but because she couldn't afford to think she still had access. And all the while, she kept texting. Her words were breaking down. What started as guilt had rotted into anger. You can't just ghost me. This is immature. We built a life together, Mason. No, I built it. She just lived in it until she found a new architect. By the end of the week, I knew exactly what needed to be done. Not a confrontation. Not a final fight. A reset. The kind that left nothing salvageable. And it would start with a visit. Not to her. To Kyle. I waited until Monday morning. Business hours. When people lower their guard and pretend everything's normal. I walked into the lobby of the office building where Kyle's company was registered. No warning. No confrontation. Just presence. I didn't ask for him. I didn't need to. He walked out of the elevator, phone in hand, tie crooked, eyes half awake from a weekend he probably thought was private. Then he saw me and froze mid-step. For a second, he didn't know what to do. Smile? Run? Make small talk? I did none of those things. I just stood there, looked him in the eye, and let the silence work. That 3-second stare told him everything. I knew. He tried to speak. His mouth moved, probably to offer some version of, "This isn't what you think." But I turned, walked out, and left him standing in his own panic. I didn't need answers. I had the documents, the transfers, the property deed, and now, the look in his eyes. That was the final confirmation. I drove away slowly, not because I was uncertain, but because I wanted him to feel the drag of every second. The waiting, the silence, the unknown. People like him calculated cowards. They fear noise. But they fear silence more. Back at the motel, I reviewed the final pieces of the puzzle, cross-checked every account, verified every password, closed every last window she might try to crawl back through. Then I made 3 copies of everything, digital and physical. One for my attorney, one for myself, one for release. Because now, it wasn't about escape. It was about exposure. I wasn't going to blow up her life with a fight. I was going to remove the mask she wore and let the truth do the work. Let the people she lied to, the friends she manipulated, the employers she fooled, see the blueprint of who she really was. And it would happen without me saying a word. That evening, I watched her text again. More erratic now. No structure. Just emotion. Why are you doing this? Can we please just talk? You're scaring me, Mason. Please, I need to explain. But she didn't want to explain. She wanted control back. And control was already gone. The next morning, she would wake up to silence again. And by the end of the week, she'd hear from someone else. Not me. My lawyer. Because this wasn't personal anymore. It was business. And business was about to close. Tuesday morning came quietly. I imagined her in the kitchen, pouring coffee with shaking hands, scrolling through her phone, rereading unanswered messages like they held secret codes. She probably still thought I was off the grid. Hiding. Confused. Hurting. She thought I'd return like I always did. Soft, forgiving, just happy to be back in the frame. But by the time she poured her second cup, the first envelope had already landed on her desk. Legal notice of financial separation. Evidence binder included. Nothing aggressive. No accusations. Just signatures, facts, documents, and timelines. Enough to end the illusion. My lawyer delivered the package himself. Said she opened the door in a robe, eyes wide, caught mid-lie. She asked if he was serious. He didn't answer. Just handed it to her. Then walked away. By noon, 2 more deliveries had been completed. One to her employer's HR department. Another to Kyle's firm. Same envelope. Same evidence. Same silence. I didn't need to spin a story. The truth was enough. You see, there's something powerful about documentation. You don't have to argue when the numbers speak. When the messages are in black and white. When timelines align too perfectly to deny. She built a web of trust with people who thought they knew her. That trust snapped before she could say a word. I stayed off-grid. Watched it all unfold from distance. My attorney handled everything now: communication, processing, distribution. The messages she kept sending me turned from desperate to volatile. Why are you doing this? You're ruining my life. I never meant for it to get this far. No. She meant it to go further. She just didn't plan on getting caught. And the best part? I still hadn't spoken a word to her. My silence was doing the damage her lies couldn't shield against. I changed the locks. Transferred the title of the house to a trust in my name. Every trace of her presence gone. She wasn't just out of my life. She was out of the story. And yet, I knew she hadn't felt the full weight of it yet. Not until the final move. Because when you erase someone slowly, they don't notice until the room is empty. And she was about to realize she wasn't in control of the ending. I was. By the time Thursday arrived, Natalie had stopped pretending. The carefully constructed mask she wore, polished, controlled, performative, had started to fracture in real time. Her last messages weren't strategic anymore. They were raw, jagged, soaked in panic. She wasn't trying to win me back. She was trying to understand how she'd lost. But what she didn't realize was that she never had control to begin with. She only had delay. Delay bought by charm, by emotional confusion, by a man who once bent over backward to preserve peace. That man was gone. Now, there was only focus. Cold, surgical precision. Her employer put her on immediate leave pending review. Kyle's firm went silent. No public statement, just a full lockdown of access and internal investigation. My lawyer said the HR responses were efficient. Quietly brutal. They didn't want scandal, but they didn't want association either. Natalie, for the first time, had no one to lean on. Not publicly. Not legally. Not emotionally. I had watched her erode, not with fury, but with distance. The texts she sent were like clock ticks, each one revealing a little more of the panic she tried so hard to mask. You said nothing, Mason. You just vanished. You don't understand how hard things got. I was scared. I didn't know what else to do. Kyle promised me something real. That last one stuck with me. Something real. She traded loyalty for fantasy. Stability for secrecy. And the price? Everything. The next wave of messages was an apology avalanche. Long paragraphs that spiraled from justification to blame to denial and back again. It was fascinating. She wrote like she was the injured one. Like my silence had wounded her deeper than her betrayal ever could have wounded me. But I didn't respond. That wasn't strength. It was choice. She needed to feel the weight of absence. Not just mine, but hers. The absence of credibility, of trust, of access. Claire texted again that night. Told me Natalie had reached out to her. Tried to clear the air. Claire didn't bite. She said Natalie sounded unhinged. Desperate to rewrite the ending. To flip the narrative before it settled in stone. But the ink was already dry. And the next day would be the final page. I wasn't coming back. I wasn't seeking closure. I was preparing the moment she realized. She hadn't been left behind. She'd been erased. Friday morning, before sunrise, I returned to the house. Not to talk. Not to argue. Not to offer explanation or invitation. I returned to end it. The neighborhood was still asleep. No lights in the windows, no cars on the street. Just the cold air and the sound of my footsteps on familiar pavement. The same pavement she thought I'd never walk again. I stepped inside. The air was stale, untouched. Her things were still scattered. A half-drunk mug on the table, one of my old sweatshirts thrown over the couch like a trophy she never earned. She was sitting in the dark, pale, exhausted, wrapped in a blanket. She looked up like she was seeing a ghost. Mason. She said my name like it had become foreign, like it didn't belong to the man standing in front of her. I didn't speak. Just walked past her, into the kitchen, poured a glass of water. I let the silence swell. She followed, barefoot on tile, voice shaking. You just vanished. No message. No warning. I drank slowly. Let it settle. Then I asked one question. Why didn't you report me missing? She froze. Her mouth opened, then closed. The lie caught behind her teeth. I thought you needed space. That's not why. The silence sliced deeper than any raised voice. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I didn't need to. I know everything, I said. Her eyes flinched. I saw it. The exact moment fear overrode performance. She tried to recover, to pivot. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. Her voice cracked. She tried to blame Kyle. Said she was lost. Said she didn't mean for it to go that far. But it wasn't a mistake. It was a plan. I laid the envelope on the counter. Inside, copies of every document, every receipt, every lie cataloged in brutal order. You underestimated me, I said. She started crying, reaching, but I stepped back. Not in anger, in finality. You're not sorry it happened. You're sorry you didn't finish it before I found out. She crumbled. I didn't touch her. Didn't flinch. You don't live here anymore. But I spoke to your employer. They know. Kyle's firm has the same envelope. So does your sister. The cards are canceled. The equity is locked. You've got nothing left to pull. She was silent now. Broken. Not by volume, but by calculation. You've got until noon, I said. Pack what you need. After that, the locks change. I walked out the door, no longer part of her collapse. No drama. No fury. Just peace. And peace is the one thing people like her never expect. I didn't look back. The street was quiet as I walked away, the same street where I once dreamed of raising a family. Now it was just a hallway of memory, and I was locking every door behind me. Mentally, emotionally, legally. At noon, the locksmith arrived. She was gone. Or at least, most of her was. A few drawers left open, a closet half emptied, her scent still faint in the hallway. But the weight? That was gone. The expectation. The performance. The lie. I walked through each room with quiet precision. Collected every loose end she hadn't noticed. Disconnected her access to the security system. Changed every password. Notified every institution. The woman who once knew everything about this life now knew nothing. It took less than an hour to finish erasing her. But it wasn't the house that needed closure. It was me. I drove to the edge of the city, where the hills still cut against the sky like a promise. I brought one thing with me. The last message she ever sent. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of it. I miss you. I didn't respond. I didn't block her, either. I let her words sit in the dark, unanswered. Just like she left me that day, I overheard everything. She thought words could undo architecture. That an apology could refill a trust she spent years draining. But I wasn't holding a grudge. I was holding a mirror. And she couldn't look into it without flinching. People started talking. Whispers ran through our circles. Friends she lied to stopped replying. Kyle. Word is, his firm suspended him pending internal review. The lease they signed on that luxury condo. Terminated. Claire kept me updated, not because I asked, but because she knew silence wasn't about isolation. It was about power. In the weeks that followed, I moved cities. Took a job offer I'd once shelved for stability. I bought a new car, sold the house, and transferred the proceeds to a trust in my name alone. I changed my number, reset my accounts, and started over. And not once did I feel regret. I felt free. She's probably still trying to find cracks in the silence. Still refreshing old chats. Still hoping for a reply that won't come. But that's the difference between me and her. She needed an audience. I needed an exit. And I took it. She used to say she wanted peace. So I gave it to her. Forever. Alone. What would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.